Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. We are Brigade of Beans, a diagnosed dissociative identity disorder system. My name is Rox and in this video we're going to be discussing flashbacks. Flashbacks are the reliving of past traumatic experiences whilst you are awake. This re-experience includes your physical sensations, your touch, your smell, your sight, your hearing, your taste, as well as pressure on the body, your sense of balance, and your sense of motion. And it also includes your emotions. This video is heavily based off of our experience with flashbacks, as this is a lived experience page, and our experiences are our area of expertise. But this does have some general information about flashbacks as well, and in the description there is a Google Doc that has the sources that we used explicitly for this video that you can go and look into if you want some more understanding of flashbacks. I am also filming in the evening, so hopefully the light stays steady throughout this video. First of all, I'm going to go through how we categorize our flashbacks. It should be noted that these are not medical terms, although I think the last one is kind of a fairly widespread term, but it's just how we articulate our experiences when we're explaining them to others. And then after we've done that, we're going to actually show some footage of two of our flashbacks and analyze our behavior externally that you can witness. And I'm going to try and reflect as much as I can and use what was in the video to explain what our internal experiences were like during those flashbacks, to kind of give an example of how flashbacks might look. So firstly, how do we categorize our flashbacks? We have three different terms that we use for the different types of flashbacks we experience: full flashbacks, partial flashbacks, and emotional flashbacks. Full flashbacks are when we are completely unaware of our current surroundings. Every single ounce of our being, so that is all of our senses, all of the alters in front, all of our emotions, are in the time of the flashback. We are seeing the flashback, hearing it, tasting it, smelling it, feeling it. None of us are aware of the current date, the current time, the current surroundings, who we are with. These flashbacks are incredibly distressing for us, to the point that most of us cannot even remember that they occur because it is so overwhelming for us. Then there are partial flashbacks, and these are the most common type of flashback for us. This is when we are both aware of our current surroundings and also re-experiencing the traumatic event at the same time. So this might include having only some senses in the flashback, so we might just be hearing it or just tasting it or maybe seeing and feeling it, but our other senses are still connected to the current surroundings. Other times that could be that the senses are layered over top of each other, so we are hearing both our current surrounding and the traumatic event. We might be seeing superimposed images of the traumatic event over top of our current surroundings, or stuff like that, where both are simultaneously co-occurring. And then there are emotional flashbacks. So this is when all of our physical senses are still present and grounded, but our emotions are instead what are in a flashback. And we are re-experiencing emotions that do not line up with our current surroundings or current experiences, but are instead reliving of emotions that we had during past traumatic events. Different alters in our system can be in different types of flashbacks at the same time, including having alters who are not in flashback at all. Our flashbacks can last anywhere from only a few seconds to days at a time, although most commonly for us, our flashbacks only last around 5 to 10 minutes because we will end up switching and the alter who is having a flashback will be pulled so far back into headspace that the front is no longer impacted by their reliving of traumatic experiences. We also have what we call cyclical flashback episodes, where we will be going in and out of flashbacks repetitively for several hours or days at a time, and we'll be going in from emotional flashback to partial flashback to full flashback to partial flashback to no flashback to full flashback, and it's all just cycling over and over and over again, and it is very hard for us to get out of those cycles. The easiest way for us to get out of those cycles is to take our sleep medication and just go to sleep and hope that factory resets everything, but sometimes that will just result in us having trauma nightmares and then waking up in flashbacks all over again, and that is very distressing when that occurs, and that impedes our existence as a person significantly. How our flashbacks look externally varies significantly. We can have an alter who is in co-consciousness, who is experiencing a full flashback, is completely disconnected from their surroundings, and have another alter who is fronting and seem externally from the outside completely fine. We might skip over a couple of words, we might seem slightly spacey, but it's almost entirely unnoticeable from the outside because it is a different part who is in flashback. We also have flashbacks where multiple alters are affected, and sometimes it is as if the flashback is locked into the body and the front, so it doesn't matter who is coming in or out. Every single alter switching in and out in that time period is impacted by the flashback, even if they don't remember it later. And these flashbacks tend to be more visible externally. And again, how that looks is very, very different. We can be completely immobile, we can be catatonic, we can be completely stiff, completely floppy, and just not there. And that normally occurs when we are having a full flashback and we are just not responding to any external stimuli at all. We also have flashbacks where we are very visibly distressed. We are crying, we are snotty, we are sobbing, we are just visibly in active distress. We have flashbacks where we are physically responding to the memory and our body is moving in the way that it moved in the flashback, or we are lashing out and trying to protect ourselves from the past traumatic event. However, the majority of our flashbacks, especially very switchy flashbacks where the flashback is locked into front, our behavior changes very, very rapidly, and there is a bunch of different behaviors being exhibited in a relatively short amount of time. And that is what has happened in the 2 flashbacks that we've got footage of. As for what triggers flashbacks, it's a variety of different things. Sometimes it's specific words, specific touch, specific dates, specific times of day. It might be the way that the wind feels. It might be the way that a person looks or a person smells. It might be the way that something touches our body. There are lots of different things that can trigger our flashbacks and that trigger other people's flashbacks. It's just anything that reminds the brain of the unprocessed memory that it has, and then suddenly you are reliving it, whether it is completely and totally or in some partial way. And just because we use the word partial flashback to describe a flashback where we are not completely overwhelmed by the memory doesn't make it any less distressing and doesn't make it any less real. It is just the fact that there is a spectrum of how grounded we are and that things are happening simultaneously, if that makes sense. Now we're going to look at the footage of us in flashback. The first one that I'm going to show you is from July, and it was filmed when we knew we were going to be filming this video, and we were in a partial flashback, and we wanted to describe what being in a partial flashback feels like, because we often can't remember what our flashbacks feel like because of our dissociation, because of our amnesia. So we took the initiative while having a partial flashback to talk about it. It should be noted that we've had many partial flashbacks in the last several months, well, in our life in general, but since planning this video, that we were not grounded enough to be able to film during. However, this one we were, and we took that opportunity, and I think that it's a really insightful way to share what flashbacks feel like. After we watch that, I'll come back to speaking for a bit. I'm going to go through a list of behaviors that are common in our flashbacks, and then we're going to watch the other flashback that we have filmed from April. Now that one was filmed because we were in active distress and were having a lot of urges to engage in behaviors that we try not to engage in. So we set the camera up as a way to record ourselves and to prevent us from doing those actions that we were trying to keep ourselves from acting upon. This is something that we do relatively frequently. It's something that we do as part of our treatment plan, and it's something that's really, really helpful for us. Both of these sets of footage could be potentially quite upsetting for people to view, as we are in active distress and displaying active dissociation, crying, not too much crying, a lot of switching, a lot of repetitive word usage, a lot of, I'm going to say, aggressive stims that, whilst aren't actually harmful to our body, can look quite distressing to see. So if you do not want to witness us having flashbacks, there is a timestamp on the screen for you to skip to, and we'll pick up there with you. For the rest of you guys, I'm going to hand you back over to July Us, and they're going to explain what a partial flashback feels like.
So, what does a partial flashback feel like to experience? And because we're kind of cognizant right now, I thought, what better time to explain a partial flashback than when we're experiencing one? Because when we're not experiencing them, we forget what they're actually like to experience. It's incredibly hard for us to be able to speak. It's like there is a block in our brain that stops the words from coming out, and that includes like writing or journaling it down. Like so much advice that you get for processing things or for externalizing it, some of the big advice that you get to help with distressing thoughts and flashbacks is to be able to externalize it. And the main forms that you're told to externalize it is talk about it, write about it, draw about it, or move. And when we're experiencing our flashbacks, all of it's difficult to do. And we end up then internalizing it, repressing it, smothering it, hiding it, pretending everything is fine and nothing is going wrong, but I cannot hear children screaming over and over for help in my head and I can't reach them and I don't know how to help them. I don't know what we're having a flashback to. I can't see the memory. I can only hear other parts who are in the memory. But I can feel the memory in an emotional sense. And my body is very tight. And my head is very loud. And I feel so unsafe. I feel like there is a presence looming over me who is like one step away from smothering me into nothingness. And that presence has been growing and growing and growing all day. And I can't get away from it. I feel like I need to let myself cry. But it's so automatic to hide it. And I can feel someone else trying to switch in to hide it. We have already tried some of our grounding tactics before we started filming this. Filming and talking to a camera can also help us ground. But we've had water, we've had food, we've moved, we've cuddled our cats, we've tried to distract ourselves with books or watching YouTube, we've used our pain-seeking stims, we've got a comfort item, we're sitting on the ground because that can help. Anyway, that's what a partial flashback's like. It's just being stuck halfway in the past, halfway in the present. Everything is looming and too much and scary. And you know you're meant to be acting like you're fine. You're really, really, really not fine.
Now that you've heard about what a partial flashback can feel like for us, let's kind of talk about some of the behaviors that we exhibit externally whilst having a flashback. Our speech tends to get very, very fast and repetitive, and we will loop words or phrases over and over again as if we're not quite aware that we've already said them, or as if we're not quite sure that we've actually been able to say them aloud, and we are just rushing to try and get the message across, and that ends up quite repetitive in nature. Another thing that we do that I've already mentioned is we have quite aggressive stimming. We tend to hit ourselves, we clap quite a lot, we bang our wrists together, we do very big movements, and this is something that we do because big distressing emotions cause big distressing stims. And most of the time these stims aren't long-term physically harmful to us. unlike the stims that we have during a meltdown, which tend to almost always be harmful to us for a longer extended amount of time, but they can still cause harm, and we still sometimes will come out of the flashback and a few days later realize that we have bruises and stuff like that. But typically they're not too harmful, and the ones in the clip I'm going to show you aren't too harmful. Something that we do in general when we dissociate is we tend to touch our face a lot or to hide our face a lot, and this is something that we do in flashbacks as well. There is also in the clip we're going to show you communication between alters both externally and internally. And you can see alters getting frustrated at each other and getting annoyed at each other and getting annoyed at what people are doing internally and externally. On a similar note, there's also alters who are offering verbal reassurance and physical reassurance. There are alters who are doing butterfly tapping, alters who are offering reassuring words, alters who are stating where we are, what's going on, that we are safe now. And there are multiple parts trying to help with the flashback and to help soothe the flashback. Sometimes alters will try and soothe each other and actually end up triggering the system further. There's a moment in this clip where someone goes to touch our face to soothe us, and it actually ends up with us then going from having a partial flashback to having a full flashback for several minutes. That several minutes of time got cut out as we were just immobile and unable to move, but it is possible for different alters to actually trigger the flashback and make it worse. There's also a lot of dissociation during our flashbacks. There is visible dissociation of us appearing to not be in our body, not responding, not connecting. There is the internal experience of derealization and depersonalization, and there is a lot of switching, especially rapid switching, which you can see in this clip. A lot about how our eyes are changing and moving, and also the things that we're speaking about and the changes in behavior that are being exhibited. There's also, in this clip of flashbacks, examples of us using our grounding skills because we've practiced them so many times that now when we're having flashbacks, we can normally access our grounding skills. We didn't used to be able to. It took a lot of work to get there, and it's something that I'm really, really proud of. So there are moments in this flashback where we are journaling. I think that's being cut out of the footage, but we were journaling, that we are saying things externally, we are reminding ourselves who we are, we at different points used our tattoos to ground. I think that might have also got cut out of the footage. We were also doing some level of breathing exercises, or at least trying to get in deep, big breaths of air. On a similar note, there's a time when we tried to ground into the body, and because the body was experiencing trauma memories, that again made the flashback worse, and we went back into a full flashback even though we'd managed to pull ourselves out of one, and it restarted that cycle. So whilst grounding is important, it can also sometimes make the situation worse if the flashback is still in our body and then we connect back with it. I think that covers everything. The full clip of this flashback was about 24 minutes long, and I think there's about 4.5 minutes of footage. So it is heavily cut down. We cut out a lot of stuff that was too vulnerable for us to share, or just was that stuff like our legal name when we were trying to ground or stuff like that. But it's still a glimpse of some of the experiences that we can have during a flashback. So take note of all of those things and see if you can spot them throughout the video.
And I'm trying to journal, I'm trying to get the thoughts out of my head, I'm trying to get the thoughts out of my head, I'm playing music. There's music playing as I record, there's music playing, so I can try and get out of my head to hear songs that only have existed, songs that are new, songs that have only existed for short time. They didn't happen there, and I am shut up. This is why I haven't been talking, because we just keep fucking repeating fucking words, because I can feel it. That's the thing that people don't understand. I can feel it, even though I can't see it right now. I can feel it, and I can know it, and I can hear it, and I can hear it, and I can hear it. I'm trying to drown it out with music. I'm drowning that with music. I am drowning it out with music. This is different time. I am safe, 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 I am safe. I am safe, 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 I am safe now. I am safe now. I know. I'm not going to think about it. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. I don't want it in my skin anymore. body. Don't touch my face. I am back in my... I know where I am. I know. We are safe. We are okay. I'm going to try and make food. I'm going to try and make food. That will probably help.
And welcome back to present day me filming. I would like to say that for any of you who are feeling a little bit distressed, take a moment, go have some water, a snack, move around, and then come back to this video. So what is the point of us filming and sharing our flashbacks? Even for those of you who didn't watch that footage, I just thought I might explain. For us, early on in our system journey and realizing we were a trauma survivor, we didn't have a full understanding of what flashbacks could actually look like. And we were under the impression that it was always the full re-experiencing of memories, and that it was always somebody who was completely unreachable, completely inconsolable, and just completely encompassed by their trauma memories. And whilst that does happen, and whilst that can happen for us, that's not what the majority of our flashbacks look like. And it caused us a lot of confusion in being able to identify what we were actually going through. So I'm hoping that by sharing what our flashbacks look like and talking about that experience a little bit, it might help people understand that there are multiple types of flashbacks. And I will say that it is possible for somebody to be acting like I am now, speaking to the camera, and also have other alters in flashback. That's not currently occurring. If it was, I'd stop filming and go and try and soothe the body. But it is also possible for you to be completely unaware of someone experiencing a flashback, especially if it is a flashback that is only emotional or only a single of their senses, so only sight or only hearing or only taste or that sort of thing. And some people can get very, very good at masking when they're having flashbacks. But we've discussed all of this external stuff. What does it look like? What can you see? But let's go a little bit more into how it feels to have a flashback. I'm going to start with emotional flashbacks because these are the hardest for us to identify. And for us, it feels like we're just having a really strong emotion. And it doesn't necessarily line up with our current experiences, but we won't always notice that. Sometimes we'll think that the emotion is connected to current experiences, or maybe it was a current experience that triggered the emotion to start with, and then that emotion has built and built and built and brought up that traumatic event, and then snowballed into something bigger than the actual event called for. It's very infrequent that we actually identify that we're having an emotional flashback until either it's over, or it's pointed out to us, or it's lasted for several days already, and we're like, why are we still feeling this immense feeling of guilt? And then we slow it down, take a moment, reflect, journal, and realize, oh, I'm having a flashback. Or more often, realistically, we go, why am I feeling all of this guilt? I hate feeling guilty. I'm going to ignore it and keep going about it like it's not here, which isn't helpful and makes it last longer. But also it is so hard to try and connect with that feeling and actually work out why it's there. Because sometimes for us doing the process of trying to work out why we're having an emotional flashback will bring up more of the memories, more of the alters attached to it, and we'll end up having full or partial flashbacks. And another aspect of PTSD is avoidance, and we try to avoid flashbacks as much as possible. As for what it feels like to have a partial flashback, that's a lot more complicated because there's a lot of different ways that partial flashbacks present for us. But a big part for us is those feelings of fear. It's this confusion of multi-layered stimuli occurring at the same time. It's often hard for us to make words or to form coherent sentences. It's much harder for us to think, and it's a lot harder for us to move as well. And internally, we'll tend to have a lot of very distressed alters. We will hear crying, we will feel negative emotions, we will see images that other alters are projecting towards us, and there's a lot of distressed internal communication occurring. And then for full flashbacks, it just feels like we're there. There's no way for us to identify that we're having a flashback because we are fully convinced that where we are is the current day, is the current time. And it's not until someone external helps us ground or that the flashback eases on its own that we're able to start to realize that we're having a flashback. Because in those moments, during those full flashbacks, we are just a terrified little kid again who is being traumatized. It is also worth noting that within our system, there are alters who are always in flashback. Within the inner world, they are always reliving traumatic memories, and every time they front, the body automatically goes into a flashback. And their existence is living hell, and it takes a lot of work for us as a system in therapy and in our own time to be able to reach out and connect with them and to be able to help alleviate the flashbacks they are experiencing so that they can start to experience the world in a more whole and grounded way. Flashbacks look so many different ways. This video is mostly focused on our own experiences, and other people will have vastly different experiences, especially people who don't have DID, as DID inherently complicates how we experience flashbacks. When we are in public, when we are around people, our brain has learnt that they are not allowed to know that we are having a flashback. So 99% of the time when we are in public having a flashback, there is a masking alter who has been shoved into front, who is able to act like there is nothing going on, or that we're just kind of upset or a little bit tired or a little bit off, when in reality there is one or more alters inside who are reliving hell. And it is very, very hard for people to spot because the whole point of our DID system is to hide the abuse and trauma and to hide that distress even when it occurs, even around safe people, even around people who have known us for a long time, who know we have flashbacks, who even know some of our trauma details. Our brain still does its absolute best to hide our flashbacks from them. And it's only when we are at home that we then fully experience the memories, which is why sometimes we have parts in our system who, when we've been triggered, will just keep jumping from social activity to social activity to social activity because it pushes the flashback further and further away. However, that doesn't mean the flashback just goes away completely. Sometimes it will, but more often than not, it just stays in the background brewing with more and more alters being pulled into this tornado of trauma, and that when we are alone again, it just completely explodes and we are thrown into complete flashbacks. We'll have terrible nightmares that night and we'll probably wake up the next day experiencing an emotional flashback, if not partial flashbacks again, and we have to spend so much time trying to ground and regulate our nervous system because we just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to the point of absolute collapse. Flashbacks occur because memories haven't been processed. And because of that, they are able to be helped. It's very common for people with PTSD within the first year of treatment have their flashbacks mostly or completely disappear. Now, treatment timelines for people with DID and OSDD are a lot longer, but it's still possible, and it's also possible for some flashbacks to disappear, for you to process one trauma and for that not to come back. It does take a lot of hard work. Therapy is hard, it's hard to access, but there is hope for the future, and there is hope that these feelings and these memories will become less and less impactful in your life. So even though they're distressing and they suck and I wish that they didn't exist, it's helpful for us to know, and hopefully helpful for you to know, that it's not a permanent state of existence and that it can get better. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a little bit more of a vulnerable video, so we would appreciate some love in the comments if you would like to share it. I want to say it's been a pleasure to make, because that's normally what we say towards the end of the videos, but it's not. This is not a fun topic, but it has been helpful for us to make, I think. Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.